Are on. We are on. We are on. We're bringing it once again. Hey, everybody, how you doing? We've got a good one today with a good battalion commander, Lieutenant Colonel Bernard House. I think y'all are in store for a good one. He's going to bring some fire. He's going to bring some good information to us. So get ready. Here we go. All right, I'm back. All right, so we've got Lieutenant Colonel Bernard House. Uh, he is, he's got a multitude of military leadership roles. He's got, had the opportunity to spend, many, many years in the military. I think he's been in almost 23 years. I think in 1997 he joined out of Little Rock, Arkansas. And, he's going to come and talk with us today about goal orientation, leadership, and just bringing a lot of basic information that a lot of us can take and run with. So no further, let's go ahead and introduce Colonel Bernard House. Here we
Hey, how
go.
you doing?
How you doing, sir? How you doing?
From Kentucky. Hey, Otis, I've been first. Let me start off with thanking you
Okay.
for this opportunity to talk today. Naturally, I've been following this ever since you've been doing it. Some outstanding interviews, and it's kind of amazing the way you're using your platform to allow people to share, their knowledge and the lessons learned over their military career or civilian career. Because I watched a couple of civilians, so I really do appreciate that. So I just want to take 30 seconds real quick, if I can, to kind of just talk a little bit about where I came from. And the reason I want to do this because it kind of sets the foundation as we move more into, what I want to talk about, some principles I've observed over my military career. So kind of like you said, I'm from Arkansas. I grew up in a small town called Lexa, Arkansas, which if anybody's familiar with Arkansas, it's about 2.5 hours south of Little Rock. I always say the population was about 49. It probably was close to that. Very small town.
Wait, 49 you said? You said
40,
49.
yeah, 49.
Okay.
It might have been a little more, maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but very small town, very close-knit group of, kids and families that grew up in that town. So I went to school there, went to school at Barton, end up, going to the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, and that's where I graduated in 1997, commissioned as a field artillery officer. And then kind of like you said, 22 years later, here I am now, assigned to Human Resources Command at Fort Knox, Kentucky. So I'm the youngest. I'm the youngest of five. No sisters in the family, all brothers. And I'll be wrong if I didn't say hi to, I know one of my brothers, Leon, is logged on here. So Leon, how you doing? Be careful. He's one of our essential personnel now. He's a truck driver, so he's out on the road there.
Yeah.
So be careful. And then also my mother, who's in Arkansas there. I'm sure she's logged in also. So hi, Mom. Stay safe. Stay in the house. And I'll call you when this is over with. I'm the son of a Vietnam vet. So my father was also a field artilleryman in the Vietnam War. Didn't talk much about it as we were growing up, but I learned more about it as I transitioned through my military career. So I only say that to kind of set the foundation so people will know, where I grew up, where I went to school at, and then as I kind of talk through the 7 core principles, and I get definitely to values, you'll kind of understand, how. Bernard House thinks based on the family values I was taught at a young age.
Okay. So you said you have 7 core values you want to bring to us. I will hold on to that. I was looking through your bio and you have like a multitude of leadership positions, just, things that, a lot of folks wish that they could have and, that allowed you to rise to the point where you're at now as a battalion commander. That's absolutely admirable. Just my personal point of view. Would you mind telling us how did those leadership positions help form and shape the person that we're talking to right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So, battalion command was amazing, So I really enjoyed my time in command, commanded at 3-6 at Fort Drum. But I credit, and I'll talk about this later on in the presentation, I credit being a battalion commander to my platoon sergeants when I was a young first lieutenant, second lieutenant back in Germany. Guys I still keep in touch with today. First
Mm-hmm.
sergeant retired James Ford, sergeant major retired Yvonne Singh. Those guys instilled in a young lieutenant not only the technical and tactical knowledge required to be a field artilleryman, but how to care for soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
And in my opinion, that is something that doesn't change, no matter how much rank or what position you get in the Army. You keep that same mentality that you have to be that engaged leader. You have to be approachable, and you
Mm-hmm.
have to, genuinely care for your soldiers and their family. If you take that mentality, those soldiers are going to follow you anywhere. And I'm a prime example. I took command 90 days before deployment to Iraq. So majority of the battalion had no idea who the new commander was. We went to Iraq. We went to a very austere location in Iraq.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't living on these big fobs. And the team I took over there did a amazing job. So care for soldiers. I think that's my foundation that I go along with.
Excellent. So you said caring for soldiers kind of put you in the position where, when the leadership time came, you already had those basic things down. You were able to square them away, take care of them. And that kind of all came from you being a junior LT with your platoon sergeants and them.
Yep, yep. And let me jump into this first principle
Okay, go
because
ahead.
you kind of teeing it up there, Otis, is where it's going, and it goes on with and we didn't rehearse this. Let me
Nah,
know,
we didn't. We
uh,
didn't.
but it's a good lead in because one of my first principles here is about communications. Okay, and it's something that I'm gonna be honest with you. Doing something like this when I was a lieutenant or a presentation when I was a lieutenant was something that was uncomfortable to me. I did not like getting up in front of people. I did not like doing interviews like and talking. It's something that I was not good at. So
Mm-hmm.
I took it upon myself with the help of others to kind of shape and develop myself where I can effectively communicate with people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, communication, it comes in three forms. Naturally, it's the oral communication because you got to be fluent where you can stand up in front of formations or an organization and give clear, concise guidance.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to be comfortable doing briefings, et cetera, et cetera. So we all really familiar with the oral communication. We talk a lot about written
Yeah.
communication also. You got to be effective in your writing skills. If
Mm-hmm.
you publishing something or doing some kind of memorandum or even an email or even on social media, if you put something on social media and it contains a lot of grammar errors, it just takes away from the message that you're trying to get out.
Yeah.
So you got to be proficient in that stuff. And there's nothing wrong with, rehearsing. This interview last night when I laid out these 7 points, I walked through it with the family here to make sure that I was, giving the right message I want to do. Same thing with emails and stuff like that. Even as a battalion commander, it was not uncommon for me to call my XO and my sergeant major and say, hey,
Mm-hmm.
read over my shoulder before I hit, X-Men on this thing and make sure it's clear you understand the message that I'm trying to get out.
Okay.
I think the one form of communication that we miss is the listening part. And this is where I get to talking about, with my platoon sergeant when I was a second lieutenant. So the
Mm-hmm.
encouragement part here is, as a young officer, make sure you utilize those two ears. And that's even with, the NCOs and, selected soldiers that you're leading. Because just like you're going to invest in their interests, they're going to invest in yours, and they don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
They want to set you up for success. They're going to teach you. They're going to train you on things that you need to know to make you a successful officer.
That's excellent. Absolutely excellent. Communication, not only outward, where you're using your social media, your writing, your verbal skills, but also the inward part, the listening, the actually taking the time to comprehend what's being said to you. That's
Yeah,
excellent.
yeah,
So let's smoothly go into what's your point number two. Let's get
yeah.
there.
And see, let me add one more thing to this
Okay,
with
go ahead.
communication because uh, you know back when I was a lieutenant, I'm not going to date myself in age. We didn't have to worry about social media as much as we do now.
Oh, that's true.
And I'm going to talk a little bit more about it, but we have to be really careful. And I'm talking from the military standpoint, but this is
Mm-hmm.
also in the corporate world also, because people are monitoring what you put on your social media page. So you have to be really careful. And I'll talk about this later because I like to have fun on my Facebook page also. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, when you're writing stuff and you're posting stuff, especially when you're in these mentor groups and stuff, you have to be really careful what you put on there, because you never know who's reading it, and who's going to screenshot it and send it to
Yeah.
that commander or that boss, and what their perception of it's going to be.
Okay.
So let me jump right into the second one here: exercise initiative. And I think one of my pet peeves when I was a commander, because you get this a lot when you're dealing with junior officers and they come into the formation,
Mm-hmm.
and they're linking in with either seasoned NCOs that have been in the formation, or officers that have been in the formation for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and they say, hey, we've done stuff this way forever. It's okay. Let's
Yeah.
just keep doing it. Let's dust off and keep doing it. That's in my opinion, that's not the right thing to do. We're living in a world where everything is changing day by day. So if we're just dusting off the old and updating the dates and, and
Mm-hmm.
and running with things, you're not exercising any kind of initiative, and you're not training your formation for the enemy we might face in the future,
Mm-hmm.
or the way the world is changing right now. Prime example, the what we're living in right now with COVID-19. COVID-19 has forced a lot of us to get out of our comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be honest with House. I am not a technology guy, so getting on this live stream with you, teleworking from home, Zoom, all
Yeah.
these programs that are out there now was Greek to me until they said, hey, leave out HRC. Oh, by the way, you still got to continue on with your mission. So
Mm-hmm.
then you have to start, exercising initiative to figure out how everything works. You still got to keep that communication chain going, just like you all sitting in the same office together.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the point to wrap this up with it, don't just settle for things are working, and we just gonna keep dusting it off and going. Think about it. Use your critical thinking skills. Think about it. Apply that. Use that 8-step training model, MDMP. Whatever you're going through, and build on the foundation of what is there and make it better and make it fit the world that you're living in right now.
Okay, excellent. So you started off with communication is, first and foremost paramount in the way how you go about connecting, networking, learning, and teaching.
Mm-hmm.
Then you went into taking the initiative to be innovative.
Yep.
Utilizing the old ways of how to do things will leave you in the dust. And COVID-19 has kind of, broken the normalcy that many of us had. So I definitely agree with those points of views. So
Yeah.
let's go into number three. Let's talk about
Yeah.
number three.
Okay, and then so each one of these I'm gonna kind of tie back and wrap it up, and then I'm going to the next point. So let's just use COVID-19 as one, because everybody's talking about and in fact we're gonna kill this virus. As
Mm-hmm.
A4 said, we're gonna kill this virus, and we're gonna move forward, and we're not gonna go back to the normal. We're gonna go whatever you want to call it, new normal or whatever. But we should be capturing these lesson learns and TTPs on how we're
Mm-hmm.
making things work at this moment, put them in an SOP, and exercise them in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a big part of what we're doing right now relies on the individual, and that individual has to have standards, and they have to be disciplined. Okay. And the reason I say this, okay, so we're scattered everywhere. Okay. So I'm using my team as an example. We
Mm-hmm.
all over, Radcliffe, E-Town, you name it, wherever everybody staying at. If I cannot trust you to be disciplined enough to get up and log on those systems and compete, continue your mission every day,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to fail. Now, this is something, in my opinion, you look back, I look back to my time as a commander in Iraq. Uh, I had soldiers, leaders all over Iraq. I was
Mm-hmm.
at my headquarters in northern Iraq, but I had radars here. I had fire supporters here.
Mm-hmm.
I had other officers stationed here. So to me, it's a similar concept.
Mm-hmm.
I had to trust those individuals. They had the discipline to continue their mission, operate within the commander's intent, and make the mission happen. Then make sure we maintain a line of communication. So again, that's the part of standards and discipline that goes for work. The other part of this that I talk about with standards and discipline is to make sure we as leaders are operating within the regulation. So it's not everybody. I would just say, sometimes, we, especially when you get to the senior grade officers and NCOs, or even some of the juniors don't understand that the regulations still apply to us,
Yes.
regardless of what it is. And I'll give you a prime example of this. As a battalion commander, I held senior leader, well, myself and my sergeant major, and I hope he's tuned in. I hope you tuned in, that Sergeant Major Kobe. We came to the decision that, we were going to do senior leader weigh-in. So our E7 and above, every quarter, it wasn't a secret, it was put on the training calendar. We were going to hold weigh-ins to make sure that the leaders that we were putting in front of these formations adhere to, the height weight standard. And to make sure it was fair across the board, I was on one scale. I was the first one on one scale, and the sergeant major was on the scale right beside me. We were the first two in the battalion to get weighed in, and every E7 and above across that formation, we were weighed in, height, weight, and tape to make sure we were holding to standards. Now, this is not something new to me that came from the military, and I think if people actually sit up and think about it, they'll come to kind of the conclusion I came to. This level of standards and discipline is something that, again, you heard what I said. I grew up in a very small town. So as a young child, I was held to, a level of discipline, not only by my parents, but by all of the neighbors around us, So as I look at the group of people that I grew up with, my friends who are, we still stay in contact, Doris on this end and Shay on this end and Larry on this end, and we had Tetris and everybody on. We all were collectively held to, a level of discipline where we knew right from wrong, and regardless of who was looking or if anybody was looking, we were going to do the right thing because we knew it was going to get back at some point. So, I offer that, a long way around and just say, hey, we just got to make sure we're maintaining standards and discipline, regardless of who is looking, because somebody's always looking, as you as a leader there.
Someone is always looking. Not only that, but I would say, especially your junior folks are looking as well.
Yes.
They're looking at you like, hey, you show me what the standard is. And if my leadership is teetering the fence, I'm going to tether the fence. If my leadership is going to be on point and making sure things are set to a standard and lived by that standard, they're going to do that as well.
Yeah, and I always tell incoming commanders this, once your picture go on the wall, everybody in the formation knows you.
Oh, yeah.
I might not known every, 600 plus soldiers that was in 3rd Battalion 6th Field Artillery, but they knew me, whether I was in the PX, whether I was in, battalion headquarters, regardless, or in the mall in downtown Watertown, they knew me. So 24/7, I had to make sure, I was, maintaining a level of discipline expected of a battalion commander or, of a commissioned officer. So we all have to do that because again, you never know who's watching that. And I know, people talk about we live in this fishbowl. And, somebody's always looking, somebody's always judging. That's true. I don't care if you're a military officer. I don't care if you're in the corporate world, whatever you're calling, bees in the world. This is correct. There's always going to be somebody watching. There's always going to be somebody judging. There's always going to be somebody critiquing. That's fine. As long as you're doing everything, ethical and moral, let people be and let them do what they're going to do. That's fine.
That's all that matters. People are going to look at you. People are going to, once you're up on that hill, people will look at that shiny object on top of that hill.
Right.
And some may be motivated to get up to that top. Some may be motivated to take that top.
Yeah. And, to me, I'm okay with it. It's part of development phase. And I'm gonna skip forward a little bit, but that's okay because I don't really go by a script. It's part of the development phase. So people watch. Okay. COVID hit. My daughter's out of school. I'm home teleworking. My wife is here. Uh, every day on the news, all we're talking about is what's going on in the world with the COVID. We pray for those people affected by it.
Mm-hmm.
However, and likewise, I have a 15-year-old daughter who's not a soldier, and in order to try to stimulate her mind and stuff, my daughter is very shy, but my daughter likes to dance. Okay.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. We
That,
saw
that,
the videos.
yeah, daddy is not so shy, but daddy can't dance. So what does daddy do? I have to one, make sure she's doing her non-traditional instruction, but in the afternoon, let's bring some fun into it. I can't send her down the street to her friend's house. We can't go here because we practicing all the social distancing measures. So guess who she has to dance with? She has to dance with daddy.
With dad. There you go. There
And
you
that's
go.
fine. So have a little fun with social media. We put the dance off on there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of comments, very informative comments. She gets a kick out of that, to see, oh, sir, you can't dance. Okay. So, I get to read this. But that also drew a lot of attention to, hey, is this the right thing for a lieutenant colonel to do? Is this the right thing for a senior officer in the military to do? And I respect that, because you got to
Gotcha.
understand, again, it's all about people's opinion. It's all
Yeah.
about how they perceive things. People are going to perceive things differently.
Mm-hmm.
So, I read every comment. I read every IM. I read every text message. And at the end of the day, I came to the conclusion that, hey, I'm not doing anything illegal or immoral here by
There you go.
dancing my daughter on social media. It doesn't make me less of a leader because I'm dancing with my daughter on social media. So I had to
You're
come
being
to
a dad. You are
right.
being a dad. A
I
dad
had to,
who's absolutely interactive with his daughter,
yeah,
who, you're human.
that's
We
right.
all do things that are human. And you're not
Yeah.
doing anything illegal or immoral, so I have no issues with that.
Yeah, and exactly. So yeah, you're hitting on the points that I was getting at here. So it's not illegal or immoral, but you have to be really cautious
Yeah.
of the perception that you're putting out, especially when you use social media,
Yeah.
because you're not there to have a dialogue to explain that post or this action and stuff. So you had to be really careful. However, if you're comfortable enough to say I can do this and I can back it up because I'm not doing anything wrong, you're exactly right. You're human,
There
and
you
we
go.
all have families, and you got to have fun with it. So,
There you go.
again, so I dived off a little bit there, but I think it was the prime opportunity to kind of talk of something that I just went through,
Mm-hmm.
dealing with perception and judgment and stuff to share to the audience here.
I got you. So let's talk about number 4.
Okay, so number 4 is kind of a no-brainer for us in the military here. It goes with fitness, and
Mm-hmm.
for me, I broke fitness down with physical, mental, and spiritual. And I'm gonna walk through it just a little bit. Physical, self-explanatory. I think everybody, and I'm watching you out there getting your miles in.
Yes.
And I see all the motivational posts on people doing their workout and stuff, and I greatly
Mm-hmm.
appreciate it, because sometimes that motivates me to get up and get my physical fitness in. It's a great way to start the morning off. Physical
Mm-hmm.
fitness. One, you always got to ensure wherever you're going, in top physical condition. And for 2, it clears your mind. So if you get up and you work out and
Mm-hmm.
start your day off with a good workout, it clears your mind and it helps you think along the day.
Okay.
Uh, mental fitness. Okay. So, this is something I have struggled with, and I just recently kind of talked about it a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but uh, it was in 16 years in the military, as I'm riding through it, I'm hitting various jobs and doing really well, mental fitness, and you're telling people to be resilient, and you can
Mm-hmm.
overcome these obstacles and stuff. It's, to me, it was really easy for me to say, uh, because what I realized now, I had never experienced an obstacle in front of me. Now, let me say that I have made mistakes.
Bring that back. Bring that back. Bring that back. I hear you saying that you've
Yeah.
never made a mistake or an
No, no, no,
obstacle.
no, 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 no.
Say that again to me.
Let me explain to you. I
Okay.
had never experienced an obstacle. I had made mistakes.
Okay.
Mistakes happen. We're all human.
Mm-hmm.
However, there are some things that are true obstacles. It's all dependent on the individual. All right. So for me, in complete transparency here, that obstacle to me was the last year's Colonel Selection Board. To
Mm-hmm.
me, that wasn't a mistake, and that was, like something that I could just sit up and think about and go. That was a roadblock in front of my career.
Got you.
That was an obstacle. Okay, so I'm not saying I'm perfect. I made so many mistakes. That's how I get all these notes and stuff, because I made mistakes. But that was an obstacle. So over the years, and I'm going through and I'm talking to mentees and I'm telling them, hey, you can overcome anything. You can do this. Just put your mind to it, refocus and everything. I had never, hit this roadblock within my career. And when I did, guess what my mind couldn't do? My mind couldn't look around and see where the next open door was at.
Because you had
So
you had in your mind, a natural transition from, I would say, battalion command.
yes,
You thought that you were going to, naturally, you're going to jump right into the next slot.
and you already had, I had the 5-year plan mapped out, all this
Woo!
stuff. So when that obstacle when it presented itself, it's
Mm-hmm.
almost like my mind clicked and like, okay, I don't, I didn't know what to do. Okay, so this is where I get into the mental fitness, piece of this, because I kind of revised it over time. And let me start by saying this: don't suffer in silence. Okay, I don't care if you're a lieutenant or you're a 4-star general. If you hit a problem mentally like that, where you're having battles with your mind,
Mm-hmm.
we have some outstanding trained professionals that can help you.
Yes.
Don't be embarrassed to reach out, seek help, sit down and talk with somebody and help them. They'll help you, kind of get through your problems, retool yourself, and get you back on track.
Let me
So
add
that's
something. Let me add
okay.
something. I
Okay.
see a comment. Someone is saying, William Booth, he's saying holistic health and fitness is a must. Let's feed off that comment real fast.
Mhm.
Because right now we've got a lot of folks who are going through issues with mental health and trying to find some resolve, especially with this absolute abrupt change in how everyone lives.
Yes.
How can that lesson that you were just talking about be used by them?
It's yeah. I mean, you're right, and COVID is a good example. But this is a personal courage thing, if you ask me, because you're gonna have to have the personal courage to first say, "I need help." I
Yeah.
can't overcome this by myself, and then it's really is stepping up. Stepping into that office, whether it's behavioral health or some all-pores organization, and
Mm-hmm.
say, "Okay, this is what's going on, and I just need to sit down and talk with somebody." So he's 100% right.
Mm-hmm.
Holistic fitness is a must. We key in all the time on physical fitness. Get up, do PT. Get up and
Yeah.
go run. Whatever. Uh, but we as senior leaders do a great job of taking care of our soldiers. When they
Mm-hmm.
come up with these problems where they need to go behavioral health. But what I don't think, and I'm speaking for myself because I'm an example of this. What I didn't do was take care of myself.
Yeah.
So but I am now, which gets me right back on point. So I'll encourage anybody, don't suffer in silence. It might seem embarrassing, that you have to walk in there and get help, or whatever, but at the end of the day, it helps out tremendously.
I agree.
And and this is something that feeds into what I've learned since I've been doing this journey.
Mm-hmm.
It goes into the spiritual fitness part of it too. And I know we're talking about whatever religious belief you are, that's fine. I won't go into that long, but you got to find ways to kind of sit down, recharge. Whether it's meditation in the morning time, where you just sit down and you just being quiet and you just reflecting on what happened yesterday or what's coming up today. You just in that moment, but it's just a place where you can just recharge yourself and then
Mm-hmm.
get ready to tackle whatever's coming on before then. So and I got it because here's I tell stories along the way. I'm kind of like that old uncle at a barbecue, but I'm an introvert. So And that was one of the things that when I was in battalion command, my initial counseling, 6 months into command,
Mm-hmm.
that was one of the things that was highlighted to me by my brigade commander. He picked up on it. He said, "You're an introvert," and it wasn't. His thing was, you could sit there and I could tell you soaking in everything I'm saying,
Mm-hmm.
but you're not putting anything back out. So, but that helped me also because then I had to focus. It's almost like you got to put a concerted effort into at times not being an introvert.
I agree.
And so I had to find ways to not be an introvert, to be interactive and everything. But then on top of that, that's draining for, introverts. So then you got to find the time to step back, apply some measures, recharge yourself, kind of go through the motions, and then you right back into the fight again.
I got you. I
Yeah.
got you. So that was point what, 4?
Uh, yeah, I don't have a number here. So let me jump right into the next one. So
All right, let's go
again,
into
because
point
I
5.
like I said, I don't really do scripts, so I just got the points wrote down here, and I'm just kind
That's
of.
perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine.
So, and this is one I got from a friend of mine. He says, "Hey, exercise the 4 C's: courage, candor, commitment, and competence." So we kind of talked about it at courage to do what's right, and it doesn't matter who's looking. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter if nobody's looking or the rank of the person is looking. You always got to have the courage to do what's right.
Mm-hmm.
Candor. Providing candid, honest feedback. Okay, and I'm a foot stump on this one for a little bit.
Hold
Okay.
on. Time out
Okay.
on that one.
Okay.
So we hear, you brought up for point 1, communication.
Mm-hmm.
And, being able to listen, being able to also receive and also be able to talk.
Mm-hmm.
So now this is kind of like the reverse of it. Are you
Yep.
willing to take honest opinion and give honest opinion? So let's hear
Yep.
what you got. Let's hear what you got to say about it.
So twofold. I'm gonna start off with what you just said. You're right. You got to be willing to listen, and kind of instead of listening to answer, as everybody say,
Mm-hmm.
you listening to soak in that knowledge so you can do your assessment and make yourself
Mm-hmm.
a better person. Okay. So that's point number two. The other point is you got to be I don't know what's the word I'm looking for here. As a senior leader, you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable, sitting across the table and having a candid conversation with the person on the other side. It is very easy to talk to the number one person in your organization. And
Yeah.
you're doing a great job.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna have an amazing career. It's very difficult to talk to the very bottom person in your formation and say, hey, guess what? The Army or this Fortune 500 company, probably not the career path you want to do. You might want to think about something else. And here's all the things that you're messing up on. So
Mm-hmm.
that's uncomfortable. It gets even more uncomfortable, in my opinion, to talk to the person that's in the middle because that person can go either way.
Yeah.
They can go up or they can go down. But it's really important for that person that you have these candid conversations because I'm the type of person that if you don't tell me I'm doing something wrong and you just quiet and I'm just executing and everything seems like going okay, in
Mm-hmm.
my opinion, I'm doing it right and I'm going to continue to do it. So I don't, I've had this discussion, on several occasions, the higher you go in the military, sometimes the less you get, this level of counseling, but it's
Mm-hmm.
absolutely critical. You know, guess what? I had never been a battalion commander before. That was my first time being a battalion commander. So I wanted to make sure I do it right. So the brigade commander had been a battalion commander where I welcomed his feedback
Mm-hmm.
regardless of the fact that I was a lieutenant colonel CSL select for battalion command. I welcome his feedback. So we have to get comfortable having, these candid conversations, telling people the military is not for you, or you need to make these kind of adjustments to get you to the next level.
Got you. I got
Okay.
you.
Yeah. I'm a commitment. Again, we talked about to the Army values, to the standards. I'm gonna take it a little bit further. Yeah, it's this catchphrase, and it's probably on everybody's command philosophy. Live by the Army values 24/7.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, I will say live by your family values. Okay. Patty and Artema's house uh, probably put more values in me than the Army did. Yes, I'm going to live by the Army values,
Mm-hmm.
but what my mom and dad taught me, and I guess I should throw my brothers in here too, because I'm the youngest of 5, so I learned a
Mm-hmm.
lot from my brothers also. But what they taught me is the foundation to Bernard House. So, and it goes right along with the Army values. It's all about integrity, and the dedication and, selfless service, and, treating others with respect,
Yeah.
dignity and respect. So you got to remain committed not only to your Army values, but you got to remain committed to yourself and your family values too, as you kind of navigate through this Army career.
I got you. Got
And
you.
then the last part of this right here is confidence, and it goes without saying, you got to know your job.
Yeah.
I don't care if you, again, second lieutenant all the way up, you got to know your job, because, people depend on you. Uh, and in some cases, it's life or death situation. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and, I'll tell you, and I said this somewhere, or I wrote it somewhere, and I hope I don't offend anybody by saying it, but, once you get, lieutenant colonel, battalion commanders, colonels and general officers, and you putting, people in theaters of war, we're issuing, the commander's intent. We're getting everything ready to go to war.
Mm-hmm.
But when you actually get out there to execute, and you're traveling around the battlefield, and you're talking to lieutenants and captains, sergeants and staff sergeants.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, those are the people who are making these, split second decisions, because sometimes they can't pick up the radio and call you.
Yeah.
So they got to make a split second decision and circle back at some time to inform you of what happens. So that leader on the ground has to be competent and know his job. He has to understand the commander's intent,
Mm-hmm.
and he has to be, know that he or she is trusted to execute at that moment and go from there.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So let's go into number
Okay.
6.
Okay. We kind of blended into them. We already talked about a little bit, and it's soldier and family care.
Mm.
You gotta take the time to truly show the soldiers and families that you care about. So let me branch off from this a little bit and share a house personal opinion again. I'm speaking on behalf of Bernard House now. Uh, I think when I first started drafting my command philosophy, I did like everybody else. I put the balance, work and family. Balance the Army and family.
Mm-hmm.
As I went through PCC, it just dawned on me, like, is this really feasible to balance, the Army and your family? Because to
Mm-hmm.
me, when I look at the word balance, it says 50-50. So the Army's here, my family's here.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, what I found is it's not feasible. It's not. You're using the word balance. If you go by the definition, there's no way possible. And the data backs it up. 730 days I spent in battalion command, and over 480 days of that were dedicated to the military. What do you talk about doing
Ooh, buddy.
whatever? So that's not a balance. What I like to say is you prioritize, and
Mm-hmm.
here's kind of the technique for house. If I knew there was a school event for one of my kids, it
Mm-hmm.
went on my calendar, which was viewed across the battalion. Okay, as long as it didn't interfere with a major training event like the CTCs and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
I would pack up my stuff and I would go to wherever that school event was. And I encourage every member, leader in my battalion to do the same. It's about being transparent and communicating, and you're bringing your family into the fold. You going
Yeah.
home, you communicate your schedule and stuff. So I don't adhere to the balance, but I do. I maintain that you got to prioritize stuff, and you definitely got to spend the time with your family. Now I say that, and it took me 16 years to learn this.
Oh,
You still there?
yeah, I'm still here. I'm still here.
I'm
The
sorry.
camera, it looked like the camera
Can you
froze
hear
up
me?
when you said that number. I can hear you.
Okay. So it took me 16 years to learn it. I couldn't hear you there for a second. Amazing enough, my mom called me. So so I hope you can still hear me.
I
But
can
it
hear
took
you.
me 16 years to learn that I had to include my family into my military career. The planning. Where we going. Assignments, and making sure they understand the long range calendar to know when I'm going to be there, when I'm going to be gone, so we can plan family vacations and stuff. So that
Mhm.
it's the communication with the family, prioritizing events, and make sure everybody's on board with that.
Gotcha.
So to talk a little bit more about it, so as a battalion commander, in between a deployment and a JRTC rotation, you plan family events. You bring the family into the organization, whether it's
Mhm.
an org day, where it's FRG events, where let them come out and, bring your kids to work day and they can see what, mom or dad or, whatever it does, during the duty day. That's fine. You just got to make sure that you include your family into stuff.
Got you. I got you. So,
Okay. I
so let
can't,
me, let me, let me
I
ask
think
a
I
question.
lost your volume there, Otis, because I can't hear you talking.
Do you hear me now?
Now,
No, you don't. Hold on, hold on. Let's fix that.
I can see your mouth moving, but I can't hear you.
Let's fix that. Do 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 do. Stay with me, y'all.
Yeah,
We're
I don't know
still
if it's
here.
my end or what here.
Yeah,
Let me see.
I think it's your end. Do you hear me now? Oh,
Okay, say
do,
something now.
do you hear me now?
I still can't hear you.
Oh man. Oh man.
Yeah, uh,
So everyone can hear me, but they can't hear you.
yeah. So yeah, I can see you pointing at me. So you can hear me, but I can't hear you.
Yeah, just go on.
So
Just go on.
yeah, let me keep going there. Okay, I'm
Hmm.
gonna jump into the next one. Hope we can get this fixed because you had some good dialogue going there. But my next point here was about reputation.
Hmm.
Okay, and again, we kind of talked about the social media thing up front, but that's a big thing now with feeding into your reputation because
Hmm.
uh, your performance naturally is gonna precede you to wherever you're going to, and part of that now is people are looking at your Facebook page, and
Hmm.
there's that is building on your reputation too. So, like we talked about before, you just got to be careful with the perception that you're putting out there. You got to be careful with some of the stuff that you're putting on your social media pages because it truly matters. And so I'm going to talk a couple examples here. Now, first of all, how I came to the realization that my reputation follows me to the next duty station because
Hmm.
sometimes you'll get to a duty station, you'll be like, hey, I just want to do my 2 3 years and leave this place and get a fresh start somewhere else.
Hmm.
Well, yeah, that sounds great, but that's actually in all actuality, it's kind of not true. In 2011, I joined an organization. So from 1997, with the time I got commissioned up into 2011, I stuck to the name Bernard. Okay. Everybody who knows me, know that my name is Bernard House. I don't have a middle name. And from 97 to 2011, Bernard was the name that I went by. I went by Bernard, or you call me House, because that's what my mom named me. And I did
Hmm.
not like for people to shorten my name. If you're going to see where I'm going here in a second. So I never allowed that to happen.
Got
Okay.
you.
In 2011, I walk into an organization. I meet a commander, and instantaneously he says, "Welcome to the team, Bernie." And I'm like, "Oh man, he just called me Bernie." No big deal because we're in this closed office. You don't think it's going to go anywhere? No
Hmm.
problem. But when he called me Bernie, it calls the next person called me Bernie. The next person called me Bernie. Next person. So in that organization, Bernie was formed in 2011. Okay. And I'm like, man, all this time I have avoided being called
Bernie.
Bernie.
Hmm.
And then my mind said, okay, I'm gonna do my time in this organization. I'm PCS out of here. I would never be called Bernie. Again, I'll go back to being Bernard. But that wasn't true because I went to the next organization and I did an interview. And the first thing the guy on the other end of the interview, VTC, said was, hey Bernie, thanks for taking the time to do the interview with me. Your commander, comes, he speaks to you, whatever. So when I got to that organization, guess what I was? I was Bernie and Bernie and
There you
Bernie.
go.
Now to the point, we in 2020, so that's 9 years ago, and I go by either or Bernie or Bernard. But I say that to say this is how things travel. So that that name Bernie travels, and it's going to travel just like your performance and
Hmm.
whatever else you do in the organization. Just because you PCS from an organization, it doesn't mean that your reputation, your performance is not going to find you.
Hmm.
So let's talk a little bit about reputation on social media. Coming out of battalion command, I had a decision, where I wanted to go to kind of keep me on a career path. And then at that time, North Korea was the hot topic, and rockets were flying everywhere. So that was really the priority for the military at that point.
Hmm.
On my aims was listed certain assignments that really didn't they didn't catch my eye that I wanted to do. I knew an officer only from social media. I never met him in person. And
Hmm.
that officer, I reached out to him and I said, hey, I'm kind of leaning toward this because I know this is the place where I need to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I just need to know, is there something better, on the what you gotta do? We did a FaceTime kind of like this right here. We
Mm-hmm.
kind of talked again, never met him in person. I just known him from social media. We follow each other. He sent an email to another officer. That officer sent an email down to my branch. And then I got a job working in, USFK headquarters, which was,
Mm-hmm.
an amazing job if you ever worked in a 4-star headquarters. And
Mm-hmm.
that's all because of the, my how I use my social media page. And he was
Yeah.
okay with, recommending and putting it out there based on how he knew me from social media. So I just, caveat that was saying, your reputation is going to follow you wherever you go, whether it's a
Mm-hmm.
name change like Bernie and Bernard, or, how you perform within
Mm-hmm.
that organization. You just got to, be prepared for it to follow you across the track. Okay, so that's kind of my my principal points right there, the 7 principles that I want to talk to. But then
Okay.
real quick, I want to dive into something else, and I really hope the audio can come back up so I can feel some questions from you there.
Can you hear me,
But
Ted? Can you
I
hear
want to talk
me?
about
Nope.
building a team. Okay, because this is important too,
Okay.
because now we're getting into where we're going from years of war in Afghanistan and Iraq
Mm-hmm.
to where we're training for a peer or near peer adversary.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody's going to have a seat at the table. So you got to make sure you're pulling everybody into the team. If people haven't read John McChrystal's book Team of Team,
Mm-hmm.
I highly encourage it. But this is where you're I'm a field artillery officer, so I'll naturally I'll go toward the field artillery side because that's what I know. But I gotta bring in my logisticians, I gotta bring in my medical support personnel, I gotta bring in my signal officer. You got to bring everybody in and bring all the systems to bear in order to beat this near peer. So how do you do that?
Mm-hmm.
The first thing is trust. You got to establish trust, and that comes with again going back to the competence piece and people knowing their job.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna, as a battalion commander, my FSC commander was my chief logistician in the battalion.
Mm-hmm.
I knew battery commander stuff. I grew up in this world, logistician. Being a logistician and how all this stuff worked. Yes, I knew how to do it, but this is the SME. So that was the SME in battalion. He had a seat at the table. So he earned my trust to go from there.
Mm-hmm.
So earning trust. You got to understand strengths and weaknesses. So we're not real comfortable with sharing our weak points.
No.
Likewise, we're
Mm-hmm.
not at some point we're not good at actually identifying what we're weak at. You look at some 5-year plans, and I'm a victim of this too. You'll sit down and you'll write the keywords. I want to improve in writing, I want to improve in PT, but you haven't
Mm-hmm.
really dove down and say, okay, what am I really weak in that I want to improve in?
Mm-hmm.
So identifying the strengths and weakness across your within your staff will help you better to form a team. Again, here's a story. I told you before that I'm an introvert. And
Mm-hmm.
again, this is something that I really didn't share much, but my sergeant major knew about it, which was important because he knew at some point I had to, mentally recharge so he could
Mm-hmm.
step in and he could take some of the pressure off and he could let me recharge. And then we just we fed off of what each other's strength and weaknesses were to
Oh,
make sure the
absolutely.
battalion's going. And likewise with this, it's the same way with, you'll have a field grade that's really strong with MDMP. You'll have, some that's not. You're going to have commanders that's strong at this point, some that's not. So you'll
Mm-hmm.
be able to mission max your team to make sure you got the strongest person doing the right thing, or you're pairing strong non-commissioned officers with a not so strong officer and vice versa to
There you
make sure
go.
they kind of complement each other to make sure things work. Daily communication, whether that is, you know, emails, phone calls, and this is stuff that happens in the office, outside the office.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about sharing understanding across the formation, so everybody's on the same sheet of paper,
Mm-hmm.
and they know what's going on inside the organization and outside the organization. A key part of this, though, uh, as a senior battalion commander, you got to make sure that you're approachable.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's going to come and talk to you if you're not an approachable person.
I
So
agree.
you can beat the drum all you want to and say, hey, uh, I want to create this learning organization stuff. But if you're not approachable, and when people bring you stuff, you kind of a hothead and you jump forward, you're going to lose it from the start. So
I agree.
make sure you're approachable. Make sure you keep that even tone, and you got to be a valuable member of the team, just like everybody else, to kind of
Mm-hmm.
go from there. Um, Synchronizing efforts, it kind of go, what I'm saying. Uh, and this might bite some. I'm a combat arms officer, so I don't mean to offend anybody, okay? But no branch, really, in my opinion, when you're going into a war against a near peer, no branch is more superior than the other. Everybody has their
Yeah.
role to win the fight.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're an infantryman out front, an artilleryman, providing fire support, logistician, getting stuff, to make sure we can maintain the
Mm-hmm.
fight. The intel is, spotting the enemy, so you'll know where to go at. Everybody is an integral part of the fight, so nobody's more important than the other. So you're really synchronizing efforts across the force to make sure that you're bringing all assets that you have to bear on the enemy. And
Excellent.
then, the last one I'll talk about here is fostering teamwork. So you have to do it. You have to be a team player. So if
Mm-hmm.
you see that person on your left or your right, and they're struggling a little bit, or they don't have a product you
You gotta
have,
bring them up. You gotta bring them
share
up.
it. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
lift them up, share the product. And I don't know why sometimes we think, if I got a good product that's working really well in my battalion, I hand it to this person, I'm in so much of a competition with them that I don't think I can share that product with them. That's just not true.
Mm-hmm.
you know uh we when we go to war, we all going to go to war, and we're not sharing the product, we're not talking to each other, we're not gonna win that fight. So fostering the teamwork, everybody got to be a team player, and we just kind of go from there. uh
Excellent.
yeah, I still can't hear you. This is
It's
I
all,
know you got something great saying, but I still can't hear you. let,
all right.
let me hit a couple more things here. I got a couple more notes, and we can go from there. I talked about this a little bit earlier. uh Mechanism to provide feedback. Okay. um, we got to be thick skinned. Okay, and that's regardless of who you are. Okay, you got
Mm-hmm.
to be thick skinned, and you got to put things in place where you can get feedback on yourself. Where you can do a personal assessment of yourself,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of that feedback is coming from subordinates, it's
Mm-hmm.
peers, superiors, family members, community members. I don't Wherever you get the feedback from, it's absolutely important that you have mechanism in place where you can receive feedback. You're thick-skinned enough that you're not defending off the ones that you don't like just because people are saying House was a great guy. Oh, I love that one. Let me tell.
Yeah.
I want to know, hey, dude, you substandard. Okay, why? Let me internalize. I don't want to defend it. I want to see why you're saying that. What am I doing to give you that perception, to kind of go from there? So you got
Mm-hmm.
to have, that those mechanisms in place to receive the feedback, analyze the feedback, apply it, and make yourself a better person. If you
Mm-hmm.
don't, you're never gonna grow. And I'm 45, and I've been in the military for 22 years,
Mm-hmm.
and I say I'm still growing. As the time comes where I shut my mind down and I'm not willing to learn anymore, I truly think that's the time for me to retire. And of course, I got a story about it. Coming out of battalion command, I'm feeling pretty good about myself. I'm going to stay around 10th Mountain. I'm going to help out with the warfighter.
Mm-hmm.
And, I walk in there. The Vardy commander is a really smart individual. I learned so much from him during that time frame. But I had never had any rocket experience, MOS or high Mars.
Mm-hmm.
So when I walked into that talk, and they're talking, M26s and all these various types of ammunition that goes with these multiple launch rocket systems, I had no earthly idea what they were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I could have been, that arrogant officer and just played it off and say, hey, I just did a
Yeah.
successful command. I'm okay. I'll be all right. But I didn't. I went to the warrant officers, and I was like, okay, no idea what they're talking about, no idea what the ranges of this stuff is. I'm sitting down with, my chief warrant officers and some majors that have been there for a while, and including the
Mm-hmm.
department commander. And they were like, okay, let's talk rockets. Let's talk how this goes. Let's talk pods and all this stuff. So you
Mm-hmm.
got to be, regardless of where you're in your career, you got to be open to learn. Again, I'm going to use COVID as a prime example. technology for us old guys are really, really well, technology. Let me speak from house's standpoint. I'm not gonna put everybody in there. Technology for me is a really challenging thing.
Mm-hmm.
Technology for Ariana House, which is my 50-year-old daughter, comes like that.
Mm-hmm.
So guess what? When I come to this computer and I can log on, I can check my email. That's good. But when it comes to setting up all these rooms and doing all these chats and stuff, that's her forte. And she comes and she helps me out with all this stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
you got to be willing to learn regardless. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say. And then my last note on this page is about creating opportunities. And this is one, again, as a commander, I did this a couple times uh, with leaders who were either, you have senior raters who are on the fence about their evaluation, or they might be up for a particular assignment. And if you get the opportunity to put that leader out in front of that person who's about to make that decision, do it. That's what
Mm-hmm.
we're here for. We're here to bring up, lift the next generation. You use your platform to get the next generation to the next level. And I'll tell you, I had one leader. He's a great leader. He didn't understand why I said, "Hey, you're gonna do this briefing right here." And he's like, "Why am I doing it? You got all these other guys. Why am I doing it?"
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't say that. I could just reading on his face. Did an outstanding job. And the reason was I was in a discussion about his evaluation. So in order to make my discussion easy as to why I thought this person should get this amount of rating, why not just showcase it? And he ended up walking out with the rating that he earned, and he proved it right there in front of the senior rater. So
Excellent.
uh, that's the last point I got on here. And I honestly, like I say, if somebody could tell me how I can hear you again, I would really appreciate it. But this has been an amazing opportunity. Um, uh, this is something that I truly enjoy, talking and mentoring and giving back. So I want to take the time, if I can, just to highlight a couple people real quick, if that's okay. Um, and some people that I follow, and I think everybody knows Chevy Cook, Major Cook, military mentor. He has some amazing videos. Just watched one yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
He gives a platform for people to submit, their written articles or whatever you want to call them, where you can get the word out.
Mm-hmm.
Just an amazing officer. So if you're not following Military Mentor, if you're not, following Major Chevy Cook there, highly encourage you to do. I mean, he's all about mentorship, and he, routinely shares
Mm-hmm.
knowledge and nuggets of information to include monthly book readings. So I got several books from him, just posting stuff that you should read, and kind of
Excellent.
go from there. So that's just the one person I'll throw out there real quick, and I can't stop talking without telling you about a book to read, and I got it right here in front of me. Don't sweat the small stuff, and it's all about small stuff, because again, this is a book about overcoming stressors.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like I told you, as you kind of move through life and you hit certain obstacles and stuff, uh, there are ways that you can cope with, and there are ways that you can deal with certain situations, that you can remain level headed and stay on path. One of the phrases I can remember as an XO, battalion XO, going to JRTC, I used to tell my staff there, I say, hey, can't manage chaos with chaos. The battlefield is very chaotic. If we're in the headquarters, we're pulling our hair out. Imagine what the soldier on the ground's doing.
Mm-hmm.
So you just got to have those mechanisms in place and know yourself, to know that what's going to make you remain calm, and be able to, give the direct guidance and make sure everything's going on. And then also, like I told you, when an obstacle pops up, that you can have those mechanisms in place where you can look around and say, okay, yeah, this door might be blocked now, but it's 15 other open doors on the other side. Which one I want to go through?
Excellent.
So Otis,
Thank you.
I think we're about to hit an hour. I just want to thank you for the opportunity to talk here today. If anybody got any questions, or I encourage discussion. These were all my opinions. So if anybody got disagreement or something we want to talk about, you can IM me. You can send me an email. We can continue this discussion far into the future. But again, thank you for this opportunity to talk today.
No problem. Thanks, sir. And so we just got an excellent hour of mentorship, just information, just awesome, excellent stuff from Colonel House. If y'all want to reach out to him, he's on Facebook. Of course, his name's Bernard House on Facebook. So send him a message. He'll get back to you, I'm sure. So as I always say, in parting, take care of yourself, take care of others, take care of your family. Y'all take it easy. We'll see you again.